We appreciate you coming this evening. So right now we're roughly at around 31 participants. We are expecting around a little over 50, close to 60 people tonight. So we're halfway there. We'll just give them a minute to log in. All right, we are just starting now. Can you hear me, Kianush? And just as an FYI, all of our participants at this time are muted. Once we get to the open question and answer period, our behind the scenes technology tech support will unmute everyone. I see it, Laura, you're having some issues with connectivity. I don't think I can help you with that. I would say get out and come back in again. All right, one more second. All right, why don't we go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's forum. We appreciate you coming here tonight and spending this evening with us. My name is Jennifer Arnaiz, and I'm a manager in early childhood services, and I oversee the child care support services, which includes the Resource and Referral Center, the Infant and Early Childhood Mental Health Consultation Program, Child Care and Public Space, and the Family Involvement Center. I'll be your moderator this evening. Tonight, we are here to learn more about the recent council-approved Early Care and Education Coordinating Entity. Before we get started, I want to go over a few housekeeping rules. For everyone's benefit, we will be recording tonight's webinar. Emily, if you could begin that recording, please.
It started.
Great, thank you so much. We do have interpretation available for tonight's forum. For our Spanish speakers, simply click on the globe icon found at the bottom of your monitor and select Spanish or Espanol. I'll give them a second to do that. Participants can also enable closed captioning by clicking on the button at the bottom of your monitor labeled CC, closed captioning. It'll have a live transcript for this evening so you could read along with what the speakers are presenting. During our discussions, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat box. We will have a period of question and answer. We're going to start this evening with a welcome from our chief, Dira Treadvance. We're going to learn about the entity from members of Montgomery moving forward. We will, as I said, we will have a question and answer period for you to reflect on what was presented. We will move into facilitated breakout groups to hear your input on the entity. And then we'll conclude at the end of the evening with wrap up, any final questions or thoughts. And yeah, and that's it. We hope to be done by 7:45 this evening. So I'd like to get right to it. I'd like to introduce Dira Treadvance, our Chief of Children, Youth, and Family here in HHS. Dira.
Hi, good evening, everyone. First and foremost, it is an immense pleasure to be sitting at this table today, getting to see all of your lovely faces. I love the ocean of diversity and representation and women, because we rock in the room. So it's beautiful to see. Thank you for having me. I recently joined the county not too long ago, but words are not enough to express how immensely honored and grateful I feel to be in a role and working with a team and a county that is richly resourced and also has a deep, deep passion for children. I'm a mother of two, so this hits a little bit differently. So for today, I don't want to take up too much of your time or take up too much space, but I simply just wanted to open up by stating that early care and education is an essential pillar in the makeup of our communities. Not only is it at the center of our workforce, but it's also the beginning of the educational and developmental trajectories of our children. Early care and education has long been at the forefront of HHS's and the county executive's agenda and the county at large. It has been at the forefront of the county's agenda, and it has also been for our colleagues and friends at MMF and other organizations in the county. We've had the honor to be able to partner with them in the past and develop and establish a great working relationship. So this partnership is something that we are excited for. It's exciting because we have an opportunity to build a lasting infrastructure in the county as we work collectively to tackle some of the barriers and challenges while expanding the table to create room for the voices of parents, for the public, for all of you, private organizations, and other essential stakeholders. With this effort, we aim to institutionalize our partnerships and collaborate as we build a shared accountability and maximize our impact for our babies. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for showing up and for being here. And I look forward to this great partnership that we have and for the amazing work that lies ahead of us.
Thank you, Dira.
Yeah.
So again, please, this evening we are going to be learning more about the early care and education entity, coordinating entity. So please help me to welcome Annice, Cody, and Franca Brilliant, who are representing Montgomery moving forward. I'll now hand it over to Franca, who has a presentation. Give her a second to upload that, and we can hear about this amazing new opportunity in the county. Franca?
Let me just start sharing, and then we will jump right in. So let's see. Okay, can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, before I turn it over to Annice, who's going to do the first part of our presentation, I just want to thank all of you, Dira, and everyone else on this call for inviting us to be part of this presentation. We're really glad to be addressing the providers. You all are on the front lines, you're doing the work, and we are incredibly appreciative of that. We also are very appreciative of the partnership that we have with DHHS, acronyms, and MCPS, and all of the work that has been done under the ECEI initiative. So thanks again for including us in this. And I'm just going to turn it over to my colleague, Annice.
Hi, thanks so much for inviting us to do this. My name is Annice Cody. I am a member of Montgomery Moving Forward in the leadership group there, and I'll talk a little bit about Montgomery Moving Forward next. But my day job is at Holy Cross Health, where I lead a lot of our work in the community. And that's why I'm so excited to be participating in this forum and participating in this issue, because it is so critical to our community. As you know, childcare is necessary and a critical part of our economy and our future. And the childcare ecosystem is, as we've seen over the last 2 years, it's a little bit fragile because it has been strained so much during this pandemic, with families struggling to find care that's affordable and accessible and high quality, and with providers struggling to operate viable businesses. I think we've all been shown how important childcare is to keeping our community afloat. And so it was a terrible way to find that out in the forefront, but I'm gratified that it has gotten so much more attention over the past couple of years, because it's always been a critical issue, but this pandemic has really brought it to that forefront. So there's clearly I'm going to talk about the big picture of why are we doing this, and then Franca is going to talk a little bit more about the specific ideas of an entity. But why do we need an entity? What would that mean? So there's tons of good work that is going on in the field with the providers who are working to take care of our children. But there's a need for better coordination among parents, among providers, among government, employers, foundations, everyone who has a stake in early care and education. And there's that need to make this ad hoc system more effective and more responsive to the challenges that we are facing. And that's the issue that Montgomery Moving Forward has focused on over the last couple years. If you go to the next slide, please. Montgomery Moving Forward is a collaboration of people who are from all walks of life, from all different sectors, the government, business, not-for-profit organizations, foundations, coming together to solve big social and economic challenges that we face. And Montgomery Moving Forward has existed for about 10 years. The last several years, we have focused on early care and education as one of those challenges, because it is important to everybody. It is important to all of those various sectors. And so there's that need to address how can we be doing this better. And beyond being important to everyone, it does run particular risks of the challenges of inequity. We know that there are people in our community who are facing additional challenges in accessing high quality, affordable education. People who are lower income, Black and Brown communities, immigrant communities, all of them are facing these challenges, and that's what we are trying to address with this idea of better coordination. So, what Montgomery Moving Forward for several years has done research, talking to stakeholders that included providers, parents, employers, government, and also talking to experts and looking across the country for models of who is doing early care and education in new and innovative ways, and how might we look and learn from them. And through that work, Montgomery Moving Forward developed a call to action related to early care and education that has three main goals. Every family with young children will have access to affordable, high quality early care and education. Every child in the county will be ready for kindergarten and future school success. And employers will be able to attract and retain a skilled, productive workforce today and into the future. And the first recommendation from that call to action was that we needed to break down the silos that exist within this informal ecosystem of the early care and education system that exists in our county, and boldly reform that system. Because what we have today is not meeting the needs of all of our families and all of our employers, despite hundreds of people's, thousands of people's best efforts. To be effective, we think that we need a system that's better coordinated across providers and across the other stakeholders who engage in this, engaged in early care and education. And that's what this entity is designed to help support. So I'm going to turn things over to Franca to talk a little bit more about what that would mean.
So you've heard a little bit about the process we used to get to the idea of an entity, and some of the things that we were thinking about as we did the research, had the conversations, developed our ideas, presented them to the county council. Here are some of the key points that we really felt came through strongly in all of the conversations that we had. So the first one, and I hope this will be something that will, you will resonate with, is that provider and parent priorities need to be at the front of the considerations of this entity, at the front of the decisions it makes, at the front of the policies it supports. And the reason that we heard so much about it is that from all kinds of people, including from council members and from providers and from parents and other people, there was a feeling that providers and parents aren't always at the table when big decisions are being made. And they are the group that is most deeply affected directly. Everybody's affected, but they are most directly affected by whatever happens in ECE. And it's really critical that those voices be heard. In addition, as Annice mentioned, and again, something that came up over and over again, there is a real gap in what kind of ECE is available to whom, at what price, and what quality. And so the entity is going, one of the principles is that the entity needs to pay special attention to conditions to make sure not only that one group won't be favored over another, but in fact, that those who haven't had access to resources, either because of race or income or language or even where they lived, would be given increased access so that there would be a better balance across the county. One of the other things about the entity is that it really will look across the whole county. It will look at policies and resources. It will work with all of the ongoing programs to try to coordinate goals and priorities, and then it will make recommendations to county and state government, businesses, and others about a kind of consensus point of view. And one of the things that this entity will be able to do is it will be able to advocate. So it will be able to go to the state government and say, we need more money for providers. We need to increase the subsidies. And it will be able to go to businesses and say, if you want your employees to, have access to childcare, why don't you work with us? And we'll set up some new, ECE providers, and you can be part of that. So that advocacy role is really important. Equally important is that this entity will not run programs or provide direct services. That's really critical. You all will be able to get the same excellent services that you have gotten from DHHS. This entity will be working at a very different level. It will not engage in, direct service. And last but not least, it will be working very hard to develop common goals. So, to use a kind of an old metaphor, if you have a bunch of people rowing a boat and one person is rowing in one direction and one person is rowing another direction, the boat doesn't go forward very fast. But if you can agree on goals that everyone shares based on common interests, then you can move further and more, and you can be more effective. And so that is one of the goals that we had when we thought about this entity. So what actually is in this legislation? So first of all, the county council, voted unanimously to pass the legislation creating the entity, which is very exciting because it means that everybody's on board and all of the council members will be working to make sure that this happens. In keeping with what, the principles we just outlined, this entity is charged with making recommendations to county and state government to increase access to ECE, and again, with a special priority for low-income children, English language learners, children with special needs, and others who have traditionally not had the kind of access that they needed. The entity is also charged with working with other organizations to share information, coordinate resources, and agree on shared goals. Again, something that we mentioned in the principles, but now it's enshrined in the legislation. And the entity is also supposed to, again, do that full sweep of all the ECE landscape and look at community needs and look at where there are gaps in services. One of the things we heard, again, as part of that feedback about provider and parent voices not being included as much, but also we heard this from some businesses that they felt that they had a valuable perspective that was not always integrated. And so the entity is charged with a kind of a continuous loop of communication. And that can take many different forms. There can be forums like this. There will be advisory boards. There will be a board. And I'll come back to that in a moment. There will be many, many channels for communication backwards and forwards with the entity. And last but far from least, the entity is supposed to look for additional funding. It is supposed to supplement the funding beyond what the county will be providing, as sort of to get things going. So I want to just say a minute more about the board of the entity. So the board of this entity will be responsible, as much as a nonprofit, any nonprofit board would do, with setting the strategic direction of the entity, with setting policies, and with kind of guiding where the entity is going, the long-term goals. And there was a lot of discussion about the board in the council because people felt very strongly about who would be represented on the board of this entity. So the final decision was that there would be 21 board members, and of those 21, 7 will be either parents or providers. So that's a pretty significant representation. 2 center-based providers, 2 family center providers, and 3 parents or guardians, including 2 who should be from low-income communities. In addition, there's broad representation from others. There are 3 representatives from DHHS. There will be a couple of representatives from MCPS and other places, so that again, it's really this broad perspective that can come together to talk about what is the best way to support ECE in the county. So what happens next? So there are several steps that need to happen before this entity can be up and running. You know, ideally, all of this will happen by July 1st. We'll have to see how it plays out, but we know that the county council wants to keep this moving. So the first thing that will happen is the county executive will appoint a board. And again, that will be a process that will involve community input. And, you know, there are many organizations that already have people who could be potentially nominated for this board. And then the council will approve the board. The board itself, once it is established, will name an executive director. The county executive and the council will set aside funds to support the entity, and it will also have support from the private sector. So again, that's the point that the entity is supposed to leverage additional funds. This is not an official yet, but we all expect that the county council will name the Children's Opportunity Fund as the entity. It will not be creating a new organization. It will be passing a resolution to name the Children's Opportunity Fund to take up this role. And then one of the first things that this entity will do will be to gather all of the organizations working on ECE, again, to try to coordinate, to try to come up with common goals, and to really begin that process of integrating everything together to maximize impact. So we've done a lot of talking. You've heard a lot of information. We're going to stop now and see if you have any questions for us.
Thank you, Franca. Yes, I think right now we can open up to questions. Thank you for sharing not only what and how we got to the entity, but also provided the legislative details and next steps, which are crucial. I think it's important to note the past 2 years have truly shown how fragile and essential childcare is. And having an entity focused on our priorities is critical in supporting this overall system and our local structure. So I'd like to open it up to our audience, give you an opportunity to ask questions to further aid in our understanding on how the entity will move forward and what role you will play in this entity, and help to understand the different components that were shared. You can either drop your questions in the chat box. For our Spanish speakers, please feel free to write in Spanish, as I am bilingual. You can also click on the raise hand icon and unmute yourself to ask your questions directly. So I will go ahead and open it up now. Emily, if you can make sure everyone can unmute, I would appreciate it. Let's see.
Yes, they should be all set.
Okay, so now let's see if I can see the icons going up. All right. So if you have a question, you can put where it says reaction, you can click on raise hand or simply unmute, or put your question in the chat box. Are there any questions?
If it's helpful, we had a couple of thoughts about things that people might want to know that we couldn't fit into the presentation. So you signal to us and we'll be happy to talk about a couple of extra points.
That would be great, because I think you did such a great job. Everyone seems pretty well informed. So please, what else do you have to add?
Well, one thing we thought might be interesting is to talk about whether there are other entities that function like this, so that you get an idea of what that really looks like when it comes into practice. So Annice, do you want to talk about Nexus Montgomery, and then I'll talk about Kent County?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So Nexus Montgomery isn't in the early care and education space, but it is a community collaborative that in some ways is similar. Nexus Montgomery is a collaboration among the 6 hospitals in Montgomery County, and then multiple community service organizations, other healthcare providers in the county who we work with. And the way it's similar is because it is trying to find, we are identifying common issues that we share. So our mission in Nexus Montgomery is to identify and respond to shared challenges in serving our community where we're better off together. And I think that this is going to be a similar idea of looking for opportunities where that collaboration is better than what any individual or any individual organization could do on its own. It is when you do that collaboration that you can get greater leverage and can really have a much bigger impact. So we do things where we try to smooth out and coordinate communication, for example, between hospitals and nursing homes. You can imagine that same sort of parallel where there could be opportunities to standardize processes or to improve communication among the different providers or among the different sectors that engage with providers, so that there's not so many different people coming with different requests that get jumbled and sort of overlap, to have better coordination in that way. So I think Nexus Montgomery is an interesting model to think about as something similar that already exists.
So thank you, Annice. I'm gonna interrupt here because there was a question that I think will connect well with what was just shared. Patricia Rupert, do you want to ask your question? I know you'd written in the chat, but you want to unmute and ask?
Sure. Thank you very much for this presentation. My husband has a landscape company in Montgomery County, a sizable company, and throughout the years, I've talked to him from time to time about trying to establish a childcare provider specifically for his company, and it's never gotten any movement at all. But I think that this is such an innovative way to engage the business community in a model that could actually maybe transform the whole thing by getting buy-in from the business community. And I wondered specifically, do you see this model elsewhere when you're doing your best practices research?
So I'd be happy to start, and Franca, you could jump in. There are definitely businesses out there that do offer on-site childcare. And I think that that happens in Montgomery County and as well as beyond that. But one of the things we did in Montgomery Moving Forward is develop a business advisory group and develop a business toolkit. And the business advisory group helped to develop the toolkit. And the toolkit really offers a range of options that are from something that's very small of just provide information to your employees about what's available in the community, where they can seek, where they can get help in finding childcare as sort of a basic level, to providing financial support for your employees to help support with their childcare, or to get the deductions that allow people to have the tax-free childcare payments, or to establishing a childcare center. So I think that toolkit could be really helpful for our business community to, wherever they are along that continuum of however much they could do, but to engage in recognizing that this is an important issue.
We'd be happy to share that, the toolkit, the link to the toolkit in the follow-up to this presentation. I just want to add that we've worked very hard to really make those connections with the business community, because there was some tension on both sides of that, right? There was some tension on the business community side, what is this? Is this going to work? And then there was some tension on the provider side and the more ECE side about, well, what is the business interest here? So we've worked very hard to, as Annice said, to really build solidarity and understanding about how this is something that benefits everyone. And I think we've come a long way. And we do have a very active group of businesses that have been engaged in these deliberations.
That's really great. And if you could, I'd love to know which businesses are really working with you.
Mm-hmm.
because as I said, I mean, I've been thinking about this for decades, really. And now is the opportunity. Now is the time. The pandemic really has given us opportunities to rethink things. And so I think we should be really bold in reaching out to educate the business community on how to help their employees get these vouchers and so forth, you know, just starting at the very beginning, but then going all the way up to saying, hopefully at some point, saying, okay, employers, you know, you are really directly benefiting from this. How can we bring you in a buy-in sort of, you know, how can you take ownership for some of the burden here? So thank you very much for your thinking in this area.
Okay, so we have another question here. Will there be coordination between the county and state? For example, Child Care Scholarships Central and Montgomery County Working Parents Assistance Program. Will there be state liaison on the board?
Annice, do you want me to take that one?
Yeah, why don't you start and I'll jump in if I think of anything you missed.
Sure, that's great. So we don't have a specific liaison to the state on the board, but the idea is that this entity will be watching what goes on at the state level, because there are several things, all kinds of legislation and resources, and of course MSDE and certification and lots of things that take place at the state level. So we expect that there will be a lot of interaction with the state, and hopefully that there will be coordination. One of the reasons to have a focused group is so that we can be looking at where there are gaps or where there are discrepancies and evening those things out.
Thank you. Any other questions? Raise your hand or drop them in the chat. A few more minutes before we move to the next task for this evening. So as Franca had said, when we follow up after tonight's event, we will be following up with the PowerPoint presentation, so you have that, as well as links to other tools such as the Business Resource Toolkit and other important information regarding the entity. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and move on to the next portion of our evening. Excuse me. We will be going into breakout groups. What we'd really like to do is to have smaller groups and smaller conversations to hear from you. In a minute, you'll see an alert to proceed to an already assigned breakout group. We've mixed up everyone, and then each group will have a facilitator who will ask 2 questions to hear your insights and ideas. Some groups will have a reporter as well who will document the responses and ideas. We're going to bring these back together, and then when we finish our breakout groups, we will have a discussion about what was the one most important topic that really resonated with each group. Please note that not all facilitators are experts on this topic. Their role is to provide you time to share. They're going to ask you the question and hear your insights, concerns, and ideas. So Emily, if we can go ahead and push the button for groups. If you were not assigned a group, give a second, we'll get you into a group.
Jennifer, can you just state again how long each group will have?
I'm sorry?
How much time we have in groups?
We're about approximately 20 minutes.
Okay, give me just 1 second.
Okay, you should hit the join button. And if you're left behind, don't worry, we'll get you into a group.
There's a lot left behind.
Just remember, all Spanish speakers go into group 4.
Give me 1 second. They don't want to. They don't want to transfer everyone over. So it looks like some people should be receiving a message right now, and then for the remaining, I will be going through and getting those.
Oh, boy.
Emily, are you able to get us into our groups?
Yeah, everybody, there's only 10 left that were not in there, so I'm just assigning them. Everybody else should be in their groups.
Perfect. Thank you.
It's just the last 10.
Right. Liana, are you going over to group 4 now? Great. I'm going to join my group.
Yeah, the facilitator should be able to join their group, I believe.
Sarah, did you not get anything? Okay. Right. For some reason, BB went to the wrong group. She should be in group 3 with Sarah.
I'm back.
Oh, you're BB group 3 with Sarah.
And I should be in group 1, Emily. I was supposed to go to group 1, not 3.
Michelle,
I'm
okay.
getting an invite for room 1, so I think Michelle and I got swapped.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Sarah, you're room 3.
I am, yeah.
Is anybody else in the wrong room?
So BB needs to go to room 3 and then put, let's see, I have Patrocina Matos, put her in group,
She's in 4.
okay, put her in 4. And then, I don't know who AB is. Okay, put her in group 5. Liana, what happened? You're supposed to be in group 4?
But it's not the Spanish speaking group. I was sent to another breakout.
Liana, I'll move you to 4.
Okay.
Sorry about that. These were all preset.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. All right. So for our Spanish interpreter, just hang out in the main room for a little bit for 20 minutes and then we'll be back. Oh, Jill is back. Why?
Jill, what room? You're on mute. What room are you supposed to be in? You're in.
Well, there were 3 facilitators in the room I was in.
You were supposed to be.
So is there a room without a facilitator?
Okay. Group 1 should be Michelle and Barbara.
Mhm. Group 2 is Jennifer Weedle and Aaron Stillwell.
Okay, Aaron is in group 5.
All right, where's Nadia?
Nadia's in group 5.
All right, that's fine. Put Jill in group 2 then.
2, Sarah.
We're gonna get you to where you need to be.
Jennifer Riedl's back.
Oh gosh, both back. Hold on.
No, I put them in their proper rooms.
You did. I need Angelica Z to be in group 4. She needs Spanish interpretation. She's in group 1 right now.
Okay.
Okay, can you send me back to group 1?
Yep.
Thanks.
Oh, you should already be able just to join.
Okay.
Hi guys, I'm back.
All right, go back to, send Liana back to 4.
She's in Liana. She's
But
in
that's
4.
not the Spanish group.
Just stay in there.
Okay. Bye. Bye.
Just put people wherever at this point.
Everyone's in their groups. I've put everyone back where they belong.
Okay, so
Except
Jill,
for Charlene and Jill.
where are they?
There's Patrocinia Matos. She's saying that if she can stay in the main lobby and the main group.
There is no main group. She needs to go to a group. Does she speak Spanish? Right.
Yes, she does.
Put her in group 4. We'll translate for her. I'll be there in a minute. If you go to 4, Liana, I'll be there in a minute.
I need to be sent. Oh, Tiffany's here. I need to be sent.
It says you're already in there, so you just have to join. If you click on the breakout room near at the bottom.
Is group 4, Charlene and I were in there? Is that for Spanish speakers?
Yes, and I moved you back into group 6. Oh no, Tiffany, you're in.
And Charlene is also in there.
Charlene should be group 6. She's already assigned there, so she should be able just to open.
How do you get Liana back to 4?
I'm going.
No. I'll be
Yeah, I
there.
already assigned all of. Zoom is so different. I don't think it's popping up. I think you need to go down and click on more and then breakout rooms for those who were already assigned but are not going in for some
Go
reason.
down to the bottom where it says breakout rooms.
So mine still says 4.
All right. Take her.
Tiffany, what room are you? I don't have you as a facilitator, or that's
No.
why I don't assign you. Which one?
She's a participant. Just put her in
Yeah.
groups. Put her in groups. Mariana Hans. How can we help you?
Is she group 4?
I don't know what she is. Mariana Hans.
She's in group 2 right now.
I can see her on my screen.
She's probably logged in with a phone and a computer.
All right.
I can try and put her back into group 2.
All right. Emily, you go to group 5.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going over to my group now.
Okay. Victoria, you're in charge.
Okie dokie. Angélica, tu grupo es el número 4.
Sí.
Y
Estaba en
Evelyn-
otro grupo, pero sí.
Ya, pero
Me siento más cómoda en español, pero entendía lo que me estaban diciendo, pero
es el grupo 4, no.
eh, era el 1 el que estaba y ahora dijeron que el 4.
Ya, y si tú miras abajo en el screen, después de todos los símbolos hay 3 puntitos antes del rojo que dice leave.
Sí, ahora ya dice join.
Ajá.
No, ok.
Haz clic ahí para
Gracias.
que vayas a tu grupo. Ok.
Gracias, Victoria. Muchas gracias.
Nos vemos, Angélica. Alejandra, ¿estabas en algún grupo?
Hi, Victoria, we came back. We were done. Okay.
Sounds good.
And there's my other group. Did you get somebody to facilitate you, Maria and Will?
Mine did. I wasn't with Will, but
I thought you were.
I think, no, I think I got popped out accidentally. I was in 2. I went to make a point and all of a sudden I came back here. So I must have done something wrong.
Okay, well, they're probably all coming back in a minute. So hopefully that worked out. But you had someone to facilitate after I disappeared, I take it. Okay, good. I don't know what was going on. Something funny.
Technology.
Will, if you were talking to us, we didn't hear you.
Wow, I feel so silly. I was so I was pulled out of the room and then I guess I went on mute. Wow, okay. So
We're all back with you, William.
Oh, there we go. Okay, her group is back.
It's been quite the adventure, the Zoom experience, and I want to please apologize and I guess understand the explanation. This is the first time that we are using Zoom. We've typically used WebEx and Teams, and we wanted to be more user-friendly and go with Zoom, but we apologize for all the little technical glitches, but I appreciate everyone's flexibility and grace for this evening as we've been trying to accommodate. You know, nothing goes as planned, right? Isn't that like the motto for the past 2 years? All right, so so thank you everyone for rejoining us. We had some very interesting discussion in our group. And now what I'd like to do is to hear from our various groups, share one topic that really resonated with your group that there was a healthy discussion on that related to one of the 2 questions. The questions again were, What do you want the entity to work on? And how do you want to interact or engage with the entity? So let me start with Barbara Andrews, Group 1.
Hello. So what rose to the top from both of our questions actually was communication, whether that is how do you get word out to families about what's available to them and get them enrolled in programs, or whether that was how people would like to stay involved. One point was childcare is really struggling right now, and it's going to be hard to get involved in something else or something new, but they'd love to be involved by getting communication about what's happening.
Great. Group 2, Erin.
Great for our group. We had great conversation. Unfortunately, got to the first question, but it was great conversation. It seems like sort of the shared conversation across our group was about sort of building a similar to what Barbara's saying, sort of the networking capacity, really being able to share not just communication, but also to share things on very basic levels, as far as the concept we were talking about is building the capacity to have some type of shared services where supplies could be shared. And I know we're doing that now with the PPEs, but obviously looking at the things as basic as somebody had mentioned, like construction paper and crayons and things like that, buying it bulk, maybe for family childcare providers that maybe don't have as many resources coming in as maybe a larger supported program. So being able to kind of share those across the board, but also then to move up the capacity of also maybe having a networking where shared services could access healthcare for our providers that maybe don't have access to that. So I know I'm not doing a great job of covering all that we have, but it was really about the concept of sort of creating a better sort of networking system to make sure that everybody in the early care and education community is being incorporated.
Powerful. Okay, thank you. Let's go to Bibi Otero.
So we had great group. I want to have a conversation with each one afterwards because there was good stuff. But I think what rose to the top in our conversation was access, and in particular as it relates to access to existing resources so that folks can have affordable childcare. And so how difficult it is to get the scholarship monies and to do the application process and to understand WPA and so on. And so there were lots of examples around that, and lots of concern about folks who are most in need accessing childcare. So I think those are the two that just really resonated most in the conversation in our group.
Great. So our group was next, and we had Spanish speakers in ours. And so really what rose to the top was, in terms of the second question, in terms of communication and having opportunities in home language is very important to be able to express ourselves and share our thoughts and ideas and concerns even in our home language and with others within our community who have like challenges. And so having the opportunity to have a forum or, work groups for us, it was the Spanish, but in other home languages is very crucial, especially focusing on opportunities where individuals can share and really hearing the experiences that are being faced with right now in the community for those who are English second language learners. So that was very important for our group to have open-ended questions in our home language. The next group, let me hear from Emily.
So many of the same things have been said from the previous groups, and two other points. One, expressing the need for evening care in childcare programs and seeing how that is needed, especially over the last few years with COVID and the pandemic. And the other topic is having available data on the populations of childcare, what areas of Montgomery County have too many children and not enough spots, what areas are lacking and still looking to add childcare spots to their program.
Thank you. And our last group, Jill Lyons.
Hi, I think what really rose to the top for us was really making sure that the entity keeps family childcare in the conversation. People brought up that they're afraid that the larger corporate multi-site programs will take off with this entity and be the voice that will be heard, and making sure that family childcare is still there and has as much and as loud of a voice as center-based, and also really helping again with family childcare with the marketing piece. They are struggling with enrollment and just getting their names out there in that marketing piece to make sure that they're able to get that enrollment as well.
So all really good discussions from what I can hear. And I'm hoping, Franca, this helps you as you move forward with the entity to really take these to heart as we craft next steps and how to engage with our community, hear their voices and really honor the voices of our providers right now. So this actually brings us to the conclusion of tonight. I want to thank both Franca and Annice, who has logged off already, for sharing the information about the entity. I want to thank our breakout room facilitators and recorders, and I have to give a special thank you to Emily for being our tech support and dealing with all the little glitches, so thank you for that. But most importantly, I do want to thank all of you for coming here tonight, our early childhood educators, our partners, our advocates, for sharing your time this evening. I know that you've had long days. And to hear your voice and to share your voice. We really have appreciated the opportunity to hear from you. We will be following up tonight's event with a slide deck, as well as additional resources that Franca had mentioned, and we'll send that out to everyone in an email in about a day or two. We're going to take all the information gathered today, we will compile it so that as the entity moves forward, they can use this valuable information to plan next steps, as well as to use for the next time that we gather. We are, as you know, conducting several of these town halls, forums for our community. We started in January. We'll continue through the end of June. Our next forum is scheduled for April 13th, where we will discuss our workforce and the ever challenging discussion of compensation. I am sure we will have a very big turnout for that one. Registration will be released the week prior. We promise to have all our technology locked down and ready to go for our breakouts. Please follow us on social media platforms. Our handle on Twitter, Facebook is DHHS@CCSS. You can find us on all the social media handles, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And watch for your e-blast for information and news, as well as the registration for the April 13th event. Until then, I hope you have a very good week. Enjoy yourselves. Thank you again for spending some time with us and honoring us with your presence. Have a very good evening and good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
All right, Emily, you can end it.